Technology, diversity, wine, the redwoods, and everything in between. Welcome to the Northern California Bay Area, and one show takes you inside the real estate that makes it all happen. This is By the Bay.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to By the Bay. I am your host, Dan Anchetta, and I am really thrilled that you're here back with another episode. I appreciate you liking and subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever else you are listening or watching us on By the Bay. This is your Bay Area real estate podcast, and I have a really fantastic guest today, a great realtor from Vanguard in Sebastopol, Jeannie VandeWeg. VandeWeg. God, yeah. I like said that before, and then I just blew it.
That's okay.
Messed it up.
Everyone does.
All
Usually
right.
put an R in there. Call me VandeWeg.
VandeWeg.
Yeah.
From Vanguard.
Yes.
And I'm really thrilled that you're here. And it's great that we've not met each other before, so this is fun. So thanks for being.
Yeah.
I know. Thanks for being here. So introduce yourself to all of the thousands of listeners, and tell them who you are and what you do, and like the market you serve and so on.
Yeah. So I'm Jeannie VandeWeg. We're, like you said, with Vanguard Properties. I've been in real estate since 2016.
Okay.
And I started off, I was working with a team at Sotheby's, and at some point, I think it was about 2018, I really wanted to just kind of do this on my own.
Nice.
And switched over to Vanguard, and it's been wonderful. I love the company itself.
Yeah, Vanguard's a great company.
It is.
They're like to stand for, and they're good leadership, it seems. And
absolutely. Leadership accessible
people.
By cell phone, at
How
any
cool.
time. Yeah. Just sit there and text.
And they're like based in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice folks.
Yeah, definitely. So, I've been doing this for like 7.5 years, and born and raised in Sonoma County. So I was born in Healdsburg.
Cool.
Raised primarily Windsor, Santa Rosa, and then my husband and I bought in Sebastopol in 2004. So we've been there since then.
I love Sebastopol.
I do too.
I went on this kick where we're always looking at real estate, like, oh, should we move? Should we not move? Like, what should we do? And there was like 10 houses in a row that were all out in the Sebastopol area, but it wasn't in town. It was kind of like there's all those kind of cool like valleys and stuff. Little kind of hidden areas out there that have really cool
People
houses.
don't realize that. I mean, Sebastopol has so many different microclimates.
Right.
I'm on more the northern side, so we've got kind of this banana belt and much warmer. I have some friends that are on the southern side. I can see that fog rolling in that Petaluma Gap. And so even when I'm helping buyers, they're always kind of amazed that there are so many different microclimates within,
Well, like I'm local and I don't really know that,
Yeah.
right? So you really hit that, like that's a hyper local, agent that's going to know
definitely
the difference between this valley and that valley and this street and that street, and how it could be a very kind of different climate.
Yeah. I mean, even when we were out looking, years ago, before I even got into real estate, we didn't realize that there were so many different parts of Sebastopol, and we didn't get those homes, we got outbid or whatever. And now looking back, I was like, I think that would have been too cold for us. That fog is just, rolls in at 4 or something.
Yeah, that's funny.
Some areas.
We're in Petaluma on the west side, and we like sit up on this hill, and we're kind of outside of the fog area, but we can see it.
Yeah,
and so
same.
We can kind of like tell how the day is going to be based off of like how thick the fog is, and kind of go, all right, how many layers do we need today?
Yep.
It's kind of funny. My wife does that where, what's the weather like? Well, you can check the app, but mostly just open the window so you can look out and see, do you need a thin layer? It's always at least one. It was a question is, do you need like a thin layer and a thicker layer, or are you just going to go one way or the other? Anyway, it's kind of funny. So real estate for like 7-ish years.
Yeah.
And before that, you had another business.
So I had my own professional organizing business.
That's fascinating to me.
It was,
because I think of like hoarders and those types of shows. Yeah. Not like that.
Well, I didn't work with hoarders.
Okay.
And I think that's what people think,
Right. That's my mind immediately goes to like.
No, because they need help in different capacity. Like that, we're just one part of that. We can't just clean up their stuff for them.
Right.
It's got to be a process that you do together.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's going to therapy to get
past.
That's
like a mental health type of thing.
Yeah, why are you holding on to
that
cardboard for that, So it's not just cleaning up a room.
Right. So what was your business like?
So, I had background in business administration, so it kind of had started there. I'd go and help people at their offices, just sort of redo some of the paper files or,
Okay.
just make things a little bit more user-friendly.
Creating systems and...
Totally.
Right.
But then, again, just kind of my personality, okay, I'm kind of getting bored of that. I've already been doing so much paper pushing. And then with some of my clients, they started needing help in different ways. So, yeah, you can organize their closets, garages, different parts of the house. It's very intimate. And I think that's, too, with real estate. It's a very intimate process.
Right.
You're helping people, husband and wives, kind of navigate their way through purchasing,
Right.
They have different feelings about it. So with the organizing, what I liked for my personality also is it's just unique. Each place was a little bit different and situation. It wasn't like me going to work and kind of
Right.
grinding the same 9 to 5.
I guess it is, parallels to real estate in a way, because the things that people keep in their homes kind of tell you what's important to them, right?
Yeah.
Like, what are the artifacts and things that you keep around that are meaningful?
Yeah.
And like where your priorities and your, where your focus is,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
then like that goes right into real estate, because like depending on what your priorities are and how you want to live
Yeah.
your life, you need different type of space and prioritize certain type of rooms or locations or other
Yeah.
amenities. So I guess you probably learned a lot about kind of what drives people and motivates them and such
Yeah.
from that experience.
Well, and what's funny too is that looking back is some of the organizing I did was myself and another organizer, we went and spoke to real estate offices way
Really?
back in the day.
Yeah, what was like presenting about what?
Well, we wanted to help them declutter their houses
Oh,
to
okay.
get them ready
Right,
for
for
sale.
listing,
Like
right.
that's a huge part of it. I mean, my
Right.
husband and I have bought and sold, I would say, at least 7 times.
Wow.
Yeah, over the years. And it came with you got to present your house. If you want to get the most money for your home,
Right.
you need to declutter and you want to take away that personal
Right.
part
It's
of
a
a property.
very-
People
yeah.
want to picture themselves in the home. They don't
Not
want to
you.
see your
Right.
family photos. It's interesting
The
for a
psychology
minute.
of that is super interesting, because
Yeah.
it's like you want to make it generic enough where someone can
Yeah.
imagine their life there, but special enough where it's not just a white box,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So it's the things that you highlight where you focus attention and, depending on the person's like need and profile, different things are going to be important to them.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
like some deep psychology there, I think.
Yeah. So I kind of just took what I've learned all those years working with people and organizing and then helping other real estate agents way back before I really seriously considered getting into real estate.
Yeah.
And then just offered my services so they could either, purchase my services for their clients that were just moving in and help them, fill up their, do their boxes,
Right.
and or helping prepare for sale.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting, like kind of lead into, how long did you do that?
Oh, I had my business, I want to say, for almost 12 years.
That's wow.
Yeah. And it just allowed flexibility. I didn't work full time.
Right.
It allowed me to be accessible for my kids and sports and, be home to make dinner at night. And I think it would have been really hard for me to be in real estate
Yeah.
as a young mom, just the way I'd like to be involved with my kids.
Yeah.
And so I think it came to me at a really good time. I thought, oh, did I miss that mark
Right.
with getting into this business? And for me, it just kind of landed at a really good time.
How are you balancing that? So like production wise, we're talking before, like you're on track. Like you're a lot of other agents out there are, experiencing their business, going down 40, 50, 60% in some cases, sometimes more, right? Depending on what the markets they're serving and their location. You're saying that your business is kind of
I'm doing good this
right on
fall.
track.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of had a slow start. It was
Okay.
a weird start. And I love going to all of our office meetings and, our North Bay Association of Realtors, we get together weekly for meetings. We talk about what's going on in the market.
Yeah.
Obviously the interest rates, things like that. But at the end of the day, even I've helped quite a few first-time homebuyers this year, and people would be, oh my gosh, interest rates. They still want a house, and they know that they can refi later on. It's just that, can we do it now?
Right.
And so I still have quite a few people I'm working with right now that they just are kind of feeling like maybe there's going to be a little bit less competition, because once rates go a little bit lower, then are we going to, instead of maybe fighting for that house, with one other person, it's going to be like 5 offers or more.
Yeah,
get back to that crazy happening.
I'm seeing that, where we would see 7, 8, 9 offers on a property. Yes. There's 2 or 3, which means like, hey, if you're positioning yourself well, you're being aggressive with your terms, you have, local representation that's able to advocate for you and make a connection with the listing agent and do that. Like you're winning more often than you were before. So that's good. So I guess
a huge part of it is staying involved is, we've had this transition, from COVID to how we were operating all of our MLS meetings.
Right.
And I was part of the council then. And, having to switch over to Zoom meetings and, sort of getting everybody, such a brutal time.
I tried to do those. I just couldn't.
Well, I had to. I was on
really
the committee.
Struggled with it.
And then I ended up being, the president for 1 year doing that. And it was also a transitional year. So it's just doing it like we are, or if we were on Zoom right now.
Yeah.
And then we had to go back into in person, and then we did a hybrid where we have both. And it's just, you can't please everybody.
No. Yeah, it's really interesting. I that transition, I was just talking to a friend this morning about how weird of a time that was. And I think 10 years from now, we're going to look back at that lockdown period and go, that was weird, right?
I thought it was going to really go downhill. And I remember getting on a Zoom with the owners of Vanguard and Frank saying, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity for us to be there for our clients. And I thought, there's no way. We were just moving into our house. We just remodeled it. And I thought, I think I'll just be nesting a while, just get my house ready. And man, it just took off.
Right.
And then it's just like, I'm just going to ride the wave. I'm just going to ride the wave. I keep saying that. And that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, good. So I'm curious what you're doing that might be different than some other agents out there, because I am hearing, volumes down. They're not doing as many transactions, and you're doing the same amount of transactions or maybe a little bit more than you did in last year, in 2023, and we're kind of getting to the end of the third quarter, and kind of looking at year end, and you're projecting out to have higher volume and roughly the same number of transactions as last year. So what are you doing differently in your day or in your week or whatever?
There's been a couple things, and one thing that I started up this last year, being a little bit more intentional with hiring someone to help me with social media. Which I think was crazy to, some of my peers and other ones going, oh my goodness, work's a little bit slower. How could you be hiring someone to do that? But I felt like it was a big, again, opportunity to just put myself out there in another light. I used Instagram, I used Facebook, but not as aggressively.
Right.
And so now just being more intentional with that, And I'm getting leads from it. That's what's really crazy. I mean, I just got one the other day from one of my hashtags, and they're moving. They live in San Diego, moving here, and I said, okay, well, we're going to meet next week in person. Their budget's $2 to $2.5 million.
Fantastic. And they found you on Instagram.
On Instagram.
So for all of the agents out there who are listening, hopefully, and are like, oh, this stuff doesn't actually work. Like it does work.
It does.
And it's not like you're attracting really high-end clients.
Yeah.
High price point, high
you get
purchase
spam.
price.
We're all going to get spam.
We all get spam.
Yeah.
You deal with that.
Yeah.
But if you're doing it consistently, you're making the content, you get more eyeballs on, on your profile and who you are, and deals, at least inquiries, phone calls, and eventual deals come from that.
Totally.
So what's your strategy around the social media stuff, and what is?
It's still evolving. I mean, I have that. I'm very creative in the sense that I want to be involved in that, but I'm also trying to hand off some of that so I could focus on just, my clients and the transactions itself. So that's been a little bit harder for me because I want it to feel like it's coming from me and be authentic. And I want
you must, it has to feel, even if you're not the one pressing the button, it has to feel like it's you that's at least directing it. And
exactly. And I am right now. And so sometimes I feel bad because I can't give her enough content because I just am not in that creative space to write up something for that picture, for that post. So sometimes things are not as consistent right now.
Yeah.
But we'll get there.
I have content days on my calendar. I'm like, I'm gonna sit down
it's my intent.
for 4 hours and I'm gonna make content. Yeah. And then about 5 minutes in, something pops up on my computer and I'm like, oh, well, I've got to really take care of that. And
I know.
I know. You know, the time gets whittled away, but it is super important to have.
I mean,
that,
we have pages of like,
blocking.
okay, we got all this content, you know, let's do it. And then it's just, you
Stuff
know, for
happens.
photo shoots or for the video or whatever. And I haven't tapped into the video part yet as much, like with myself on there and talking to.
Well, you're doing that right now.
I know.
Hi, everyone.
So I need to probably grow that part of it a little bit.
I think there's some comfort in getting used to and just putting
hearing
yourself
your own
out
voice.
there. Yeah, no one likes the way that they sound.
I know.
Yeah, it's just how it goes.
Yeah.
So what else is happening? Like, what else are you doing in your like day-to-day habits that is finding success?
Okay.
Like,
Well,
how do you get in the mindset to like the market is hard, there's less transactions, rates are high, there's a lot of negativity and like out there in the world. I'm gonna show up as my best self every day and you know, go and attract those clients and make it happen.
Yeah. One thing I'll say, I'm very intentional with not watching a ton of news.
Okay.
Like I don't focus because they'll just put that negative stuff on repeat all day. And but starting off in the mornings, I've always, like, I don't know, at least 10 years, my ritual has been get up, get my coffee, sit in bed, and do my journal. I read things that are motivational. And it's a very basic journal. It's literally called the 5-minute journal. And I've given it away as gifts. I was given that as a gift back in 2016, and I've bought multiple of them. And it just takes 5 minutes. You know, it starts off, you put the date, there's a nice quote, and then 3 things you're grateful for. So it's just a sentence of, you know, just kind of pulling it out. Sometimes it's like, I'm grateful I just got a good night's sleep. You know, maybe you don't have anything, but it's not about writing down all the bad stuff that's going on. And then 3 things that you want to happen that day. And so I'm very like specific. I mean, I want to open an escrow today, you know, or I want to meet new clients or whatever it may be. And then you write 3 things that that you are, you know, that you're, you know, I'm organized. I'm that, like whatever you want to really be that day. And then at the end of the day, I don't do it quite as often, but there is a part at the bottom you can, you know, talk about your highlights for the day. By the end of the day, I just don't. But I pick up the next morning.
That's really,
you know what I mean?
That's incredible. And you've been doing it for a long time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I still have some of my journals from when I was a little kid, like the little diaries, you know? So, I mean, always writing something.
Yeah.
And I think it's just powerful to go back and look. I love rereading my stuff that I write.
I was going to ask you if you can go back and reread stuff and visit your prior self, right?
Yeah. I mean, things that I've written down very specifically. And I go, why did I even expect that to happen?
Right.
And it did. And so, I don't know, it's just something any of my friends will talk about. They know I'm all about manifesting what you want.
Did you write down, make a great podcast in today's journal?
I you know, speak clear, concise, have fun. You know, I wanted to have a good time while we were here.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
So you start your day with that, like setting your intentions, journaling, some gratitude, some like, here, this is what's on my mind. This is my, like my big thought for what I want to do today.
Yeah.
And then what happens after that?
Well, one thing I'll say too to that is, excuse me, recognizing that each day is like a fresh start. I think there's something really powerful about that, excuse me.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I think, if you're going with
I could
that,
have a really bad day.
Yeah.
And, you know, just getting in that good night's sleep. And the next day, it's like we have an, you know, opportunity to just be whatever we want.
Yep.
And I think in this business too, there's unlimited potential.
Yeah.
So it's whatever we put into it. You know, I'm not kind of stuck at a salary. I'm not stuck, you know, working for someone 9 to 5. It's just how much I put into it is what I'll get out.
Right.
You know?
That's great. Yeah. It's so funny that you say that because had a particularly difficult day yesterday, and I woke up this morning and I woke my wife up, and the first thing I said to her was, today's a new day. And it's like, she's like, yep, today's a new day. It's like, okay, take a deep breath and let's go do it.
Yep.
Because it just, you know, it's one of those things where it's a fresh start. It's a new opportunity to go make something happen.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I forget often is like being intentional with that. Like, it's a new start. Let's go over. And people do that at different mile markers. New year.
Sure.
I'm going to start that on January 1st, whatever that is.
Yeah.
But I think if you can have that mindset of like every single day is New Year's Day,
It is.
then that's
Yeah.
that's probably where we should all be.
Yeah. And I really fall back on a lot of good books that people recommend.
Yeah, okay.
You know, I like the 12-week year.
Yep. One of my favorites.
Oh my gosh. It just really hyper focuses you on how you should be spending your time.
Yeah, so summarize that for someone who hasn't read it.
Oh my goodness.
Just give us
So,
the
I mean,
quick rundown.
instead of taking a whole, year to do something, having that 12 weeks, it's just setting priorities, right? And getting them done in a shorter period of time. I mean, most of us work really well under pressure.
Right.
So it's just like having that kind of pressure and putting those goals out there.
Yep.
I put on there, how many escrows I want to open, how many this, how many that.
Well, it's human nature to wait
Yes.
until the last second. It is,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And so if you set an annual goal, you won't like open that
you
book
start
up
working
and
hard.
go, it's October. And now I've got, I have a lot more to do, but it's okay. I still got 3 months. And the reality is that the deals that you close in October are seeds that you planted in the spring, right? Six months earlier or so.
Yeah.
Occasionally you get that one where, they hit you up on Instagram and they're in escrow the next day.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you can't bank on those.
No. No.
But the 12-week year is really cool because I imagine it as, instead of having it be 12 months, you take a year's work of work and you condense it down into that 3 months. So every year, if you're subscribing to that, every year that I'm in business is 4 years that my competition is in business, right?
Yeah.
So if I am committed to that type of schedule, then I do 4 years of work in 1 year, and I can evolve my business and change and grow and learn and try new things and fail and try again, all in the time that someone else I'm competing with in a way is just thinking about possibly getting started.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, it's okay. Just start and go and set that deadline.
Yeah, because I don't want
earlier.
to focus on the business I don't have. It's like, how am I going to get that next bit of business?
Sure.
I mean, that's huge. I mean, there's so many great books and programs out there, and I think you've just got to pick something.
Yeah.
You
Almost
know what I mean?
like all of those things work.
They do.
It's just a matter of how, like, what fits with your personality. Like, do you want to be the agent that calls 5,000 people
I was
to
just
get
gonna
one
say,
deal?
I don't do cold
that's
calls.
totally cool.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Cold calls are great.
Yeah.
I know super successful agents that just pound the phones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is great. And
Yeah.
they find their business and they are doing awesome.
Yeah.
I also know agents that work on referral only, and all they do is spend time with their past clients in their sphere of influence and love on them, and they refer their friends and family, and
totally.
that's fantastic.
And that's I was just looking at some of my business for this year.
Yeah.
I would say, gosh, almost 3/4 of my business this year was referrals from other agents that liked working with me. Pretty much all of them are some sort of referral,
Right. So are you intentional with that? Like, do you have a plan of attack for this is how I'm going to take care of my...
I think it's an important part of it. I've
Okay.
done, I've gone to different networking events, when I used to work with Sotheby's and, go to Vegas. They had the global networking event. And it was so cool that and that was back in 2017.
Okay.
And the business that I got from that one trip, I ended up getting a deal, a listing in Sebastopol that was like $2.5 million. It's like, just because I was interacting, having a good time with other agents, they want to know who's in that area.
Yeah. Isn't that cool? Like, I've gone back and traced some like client referrals.
Yeah.
It started off with this one, and then this person, that client, we did a deal, and then they introduced me to this person, and then that led to this. And you have these webs of people that grow and grow and grow that all started with one conversation.
It all does.
And just like showing someone gratitude and appreciation and sending them a thank you note or whatever it
Yeah.
is. And it's amazing what that like connection, like one connection can make a world of difference.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And if you want to quantify it into dollars, that'd be really interesting. Like, how many transactions and what was the gross commission that you make off of those? And not that that's what you're in the business for, but it's interesting to quantify, like, what was the real value of that relationship and conversation?
Yeah.
And
I think just getting out and about, that's a big part of probably, attracting business. I put in my journal too. I want to attract. I don't want to chase business. If someone doesn't want to buy or sell with me, fine. There's a better agent for them. but just attracting those other like-minded people
For sure.
that operate very similar, whether that's also agents. This doesn't have to be, like, we all have the same goal, is to help our clients buy or sell.
Right.
And it's always amazing to me when other agents, I haven't dealt with any lately, but in the past where they're just a little bit aggressive. It's not necessary.
It's not necessary.
To get the job done.
It's not necessary.
It's not necessarily to their client's benefit.
I've had a couple of those when I, like, literally in the middle of the agents, because I'm, the lender is just representing the buyer's, loan interest in financing. And I've had that conversation with them, like, literally, like, hey, we're all on the same team here. Mm-hmm. Right? At the end of the day, your seller has agreed to sell to this buyer at this price. Yeah. Well, let's all act like adults and figure out how to make our way through this. Yeah. Right? So what do we got to do to get through this transaction together?
Absolutely.
And those are unfortunate because it's not a great experience for anybody, know, and I think it shows through to the buyers and the sellers. And it's kind of like, come on, guys, we got to figure this out. Just be cordial, have a conversation, share some information. Yeah. If you got a concern, something's not going well, just be honest. Let's just put it out there and figure it out. Yeah. But anyway, anything else that you're doing differently? So you've got setting your intentions, kind of getting your day started on the right foot, coming in with kind of positivity and your best self every day. Yeah. Great. And you're taking care of your past clients and loving on them. You get your referrals from them.
I think being involved in some capacity, that's one thing, even just once I got into the business, is how can I be of service in some capacity, whether that's, for quite a few years, I worked on the North Bay Association of Realtors, the council for West County. Okay. And so I started off doing, more of the volunteer coordinator part of it. So helped put together a big, successful golf event. But it was kind of getting the whole community together, getting all the agents. And then it's also a good way to interact with other agents. Like, we don't, even though we're all in this business, like, until we work with them one-on-one. So that was a really good, thing just to do. And then it kind of led into, and then I ran the meetings. But I would say that even for newer agents or ones that really haven't been involved, is to give back in some capacity. Yeah,
I like that a lot. And I think, the community is important. Mm-hmm. Making connections is important. Yeah. But also, there's a lot of, like, community service aspect to it of, like, it's good to go there and learn things and make connections, but also, like, let's do something good for the community that we
feels good.
We get to be a part of.
Yeah.
So I like when there's, like, the, cleanup days and just, like, spending time in the community or like food drives and just other things that we can
always
do
the
just
food drive every year.
As a community. It's cool. Yeah. I like that. That's it's also nice to interact with people in a different capacity besides a negotiation or a transaction. Yeah. So anything else that you're doing differently? Because I'm really fascinated. I'm like I said, most agents right now aren't doing so great, right? It's a hard time in the business right now. And there's I forget the data, 50,000, something like that, fewer realtors in the community, not nationwide, obviously not just in Sonoma County. Yeah. And they're doing other things. They're going back to other jobs. They're doing other deals. And
that's kind of a tricky thing too, is when you have to start supplementing your income in another way, and that was just something I wanted to do this full time. And just kind of, once I did that, that's all I focused on, because we're going to have ebbs and flow in this business always, right? During that 2020, 21, like, those were really hot years for me. And, very specifically working with sellers. And then last year did a lot of land sales and, did both sides. And it was harder last year for some whatever reason. Yeah. And then this year, it seems like, okay, there's lots of buyers. I mean, I've actually worked with quite a few sellers too, but it just kind of happens that way that, okay, there's these buyers that have been sort of on the sideline and they're now ready for whatever reason. So
great.
You just don't know when they're going to come.
You never know when it's going to come.
No, you don't know.
So you mentioned earlier, and this is the original thought I had, and that we went on a tangent, was that you were grateful that you got into the industry when you did, because of you had kids, and wanted to be kind of more present and not be.
Because it's demanding.
Right. Both are, right? Yeah. So how do you balance that? That's something I struggle with, is like that balance. And in our house, we call it like the work-life harmony, right? Because there's no balance.
There's no balance.
Balance you're lying to yourself if you think you can balance it. But making sure that everything's in harmony with each other. How do you experience that? How do you manage that overall process so that you're present at home and also present professionally and have time for yourself and all these other things? Because it's an incredibly demanding job, and the schedule of the realtor is evenings and weekends when people aren't working primarily, right? To like be with your clients and go to signings and do listing appointments and all that other stuff. It doesn't really happen 9 to 5.
No, it doesn't.
Right? So how do you balance that? What does that look like for you?
I don't know if I really do sometimes. I think it's something I'm learning. I kind of lean on seeing how other agents are doing it too. That when things are slow, it's also stressful because you want to know where that next deal is coming from. So I think that, I have, my girls are in college. So no, they're not at home. My husband's at work all day.
Got it.
I feel guilty with that. I leave my dogs at home sometimes, but I work from home a lot as well. So I think that just as I've gotten through each transaction, they each teach me something, and I just try to squeeze in little bits of time, whether it's getting up earlier to work out, because once you hit that 9 o'clock, your phone starts ringing. Right. And then it's hard, even though you're intending to go work out or do whatever, it's just like, it's not going to happen. Yeah. So it has to happen before then, because the likelihood it's going to happen later is just like slim.
I've done that before.
Unless I could slip in a walk or, or being at the office, I'll tell another agent, hey, bring your shoes. Like, let's go for a walk because we work in the Barlow.
Yeah.
That's kind of I don't know, it's just a good balance for me in that day. And I think it's just day by day. It just...
Yeah, I like have to do it first thing in the morning. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, the day just goes haywire. Yeah. I actually thought about like getting a Peloton, putting it here in the office.
One. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, have one at home. I was like, I should get one put in the office. And I will totally like take a 30-minute ride in the middle of the day. No. And I was like about to hit the button to like, buy one. It's like, I am lying to myself. This is not going to happen because like the phone will ring.
I know.
A client
and I
will
don't
need
bring
something.
my phone. I don't bring my phone to work out with me. I leave that in the house. I have my Peloton in the garage. Yeah. And because otherwise, I just want to focus on that
you're like
ride.
Trying to ride and you're like on your phone at the same time. I've done that and it's not good.
No.
Bad
Once in a while, if I'm waiting
texting.
for a call, I go, you know what? Nothing, like no one's going to die. Yeah. Like, it's fine.
Yeah, for sure.
Leave it in there.
Right. So you're kind of like at a different point where, so you can like be fully into like all day. Your kids are in college.
Yeah.
So
they have other needs, and I feel sometimes I'm like, sorry, I got to call you later. I'm with clients or whatever. Yeah. They don't really know what I do, I think, so sometimes it's like, honey, I will call you back. I'm stuck right now.
I'm on the other end of the spectrum. I have a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old. Actually, my daughter's birthday is tomorrow. Aww. And then I have a almost 2-year-old. So 6, 4, and 2. And like, that is...
You're in the
chaos.
Thick of it.
And that's such a hard balance because, I've got a phone call at 6 o'clock, the kids are in the bath, and the client, wants to talk about something. And I'm also trying to hear about what happened in first grade today. And I'm like, okay, obviously hearing about the kids is the most important thing. But sometimes those clients aren't very understanding because this is the most important thing to them.
Well, I know what we do to lenders. It's like, hard. Oh, we want to write an offer on this. I need this pre-approval now.
Yeah. No, which is great. Like it's part of the gig is that you're available. Yeah. I don't want to say all the time. We talk about the difference between being on demand and in demand.
Completely.
Right? Like I don't want to be on demand. I don't want to take a phone call at midnight. Yeah. Right? But at the same time,
I wouldn't hear that call. I'd put my phone in my office.
Adding enough value though that people are willing to wait for you until 8 o'clock. And I'll be very upfront with the clients and say, look, from 5 to 8, that's family time, dinner, bath, bedtime, reading stories, hearing about what's going on. I'll call you back at 9. I'll call you back at 8. I'll talk to you at 10:30. Mm-hmm. Well, I'll meet you there. But that 3 hours, like
that's good.
Unless it's like an emergency, like I'm not going to pick up.
Yeah.
Right. But if you text me like emergency, have to talk to you, I will step aside and give you a call. But it better be pretty important because that's really important time for me.
I know.
But anyway, it's a hard balance, and
because our phones, they're what we need to conduct business. But man, would I just love to be able to just set it down and not worry about it.
Sometimes I think about that, like sitting here, I've got a phone, a watch, and a computer. All of them are.
I haven't done the watch yet. I just like.
Yeah. Yeah. We bought them some time ago, I think for like tracking workouts and that sort of thing. And now it's just mostly another way to text.
Who's trying to get
yeah, exactly.
Right now.
But anyway, it's hard to disconnect. And it's one of those things I think is really, really important, like for like mental health, agents' mental health, lenders' mental health is like, you have to find a way to disconnect at some point.
Yeah.
Like you just
and I think that's that, and see my early mornings is kind of that time for me. You know, I listen to the Calm apps, you know,
right.
And just kind of have that, you know, chill music in the background and just really try to enjoy that 20 minutes that I might be spending in the morning, you know, having my coffee, because I know it's going to be crazy for the day.
So 7 years in the business, I guess one question I have is, if you were going back in time and you were kind of telling your 7 years ago, you know, starting realtor, what advice would you give yourself? Like, what would you do differently in your career? Would you make any different moves? Like what would you do? What would you counsel a new realtor to do? Like specifically yourself or someone else who's newer to the business?
I mean, sometimes I wish I would have started it earlier, but I don't know if I would have been ready for it earlier.
I've had that same thought.
Yeah. Because even when I was really young, I think I was 18, my grandma always said, Jeannie, you need to get into real estate. I said, I don't want to do that. I just feel like no one would take me serious. I'm 18 or whatever. And then just like little things over time was like, maybe I should do really. No, I'll do that another time. No, I'll do that another time.
Yeah.
You know, but I think probably learning to enjoy some of the slower time, you know, and be more really intentional with your time. You know, sometimes when I'm slow, it's hard for me to focus. Like that would be a great time to focus on future content, putting things together. But sometimes our brain is just like, where's that next bit of business going to come from? That it's hard to be in that moment.
Right.
I think that's the part that I'm still working on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like maybe not feeling so anxious necessarily about the next deal and being a little bit more in the moment and being able to say, I know that I'm doing the right things and the next deal will come. I don't need to worry about it.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's where the journal stuff comes in handy for me, because putting that down, it makes me feel like I'm in the right direction.
Right. I think there's a balance there, though, that you have to be doing the hard work, right? Because it's a grind. It's hard right now, right? So you have to be doing all the consistent kind of boring day-to-day stuff.
Yeah.
And if you do all that stuff, then you can trust that, you know, the results will come. Yeah. You don't need to worry about it. Yeah. I think the gut check for people is like, am I actually doing the amount of hard work that I need to do?
Yeah. Because I could always do more. I always think about that. Like, well, I could be doing more.
I posted 2 videos. I could have done 6, right? Yeah. Sure. But okay. I think there's a balance. But I think that Yeah. And I also want really organic business. I mean, I don't knock anyone that does it, but I don't pay for Zillow leads and do some of those. I don't do the cold calls and that type of thing. So I think if I really wanted to take it, then I could do some of those. But I rather it just kind of come from more of that referral base. And like we said earlier, there's no
really
wrong way.
Yeah.
There's no wrong way. I know agents that crush it doing Zillow leads, and they just make crazy number of deals, and they're doing really, really well on it.
Exactly.
I also know people who've done it and just absolutely hate it.
I just don't know if I would want that kind of.
But that's the cool thing about the industry, is that you can play in it so many different ways. Yeah. And there's no wrong way, as long as you're hitting the goals that you've set out for yourself and that you're happy with the way that your life is structured.
Yeah.
But, you know.
And that's also the part about real estate that's kind of interesting. When you get into it, there's not a real clear direction.
No.
You know, it just feels like it's constantly evolving. No, there's not one agent that has that perfect program for their CRM. That like, there's so many opinions and there's so many options that you can go.
Yep.
That's where it's hard, is to kind of like narrow down like what works for me.
Right.
I mean, I'm trying to do a new CRM and, you know, it's like get all my, you know, past clients in one spot.
We just did that like a year ago, and it was so much work. Yeah. And I'm glad that we did it, because it's paid off, and we've, you know, made it that investment of time and money to do that. But, you know, the best CRM is the one that you actually use, because I know plenty of people who have spent $20,000, $30,000 more to develop their CRM system, and then it sits on the shelf not being used. Yeah. And then it comes time to renew that license, and they're like, I'm not going to pay another, you know, $5,000 for that. It's like, well, you just spent like 50 grand on this thing and you've done nothing with it.
Yeah.
So
that's
if a
where I
Google
have to kind of
spreadsheet,
time
you know,
block,
and a piece of paper works for you, great. As long as you actually do the consistent follow up and do what you got to do.
Definitely.
Cool. So what's the so kind of like taking a step back from the daily ritual stuff and how you're navigating the world, but talk to me about the market in general. Like what are you seeing out there? Like the interesting thing about the show, I think, is that every week or every other week or so, we kind of get a snapshot.
Okay.
And so it's like, what's happening out there?
Yeah.
So give us that quick, take on what's going on.
Yeah. So I primarily I live in Sebastopol, obviously, and work that area, Sonoma County as a whole. But I would say Sebastopol inventory, it's low.
Right.
So even though the rates are high, we still are seeing competition when it comes to the houses that do pop up.
Right.
And if they're priced right, they're still getting multiple offers. And the ones that aren't, they're just sitting.
Right.
A little bit longer. I mean, that's just kind of like a basic way to kind of
priced right, meaning like obviously
price to sell.
Pulling comps, but you're not trying to overshoot it and go, I think the house is worth $1 million. Let's list it for $1.3 million and see if someone bites.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
That's not happening.
Yeah.
It's more so the house is worth $1 million. Let's list it for $995 and try to get a few people interested in this.
It tends to attract more people to your open houses. It attracts more people there and let the market push it up on its own. One thing that's happened in our market that's been kind of hard to navigate is the MLS. I mean, it being cyber attacked.
Yeah, we talked about that on Christy Taylor was on the show last week. Okay. And we were talking about that, like the MLS was down for 20 days, whatever it was.
It's still messed up because because I was trying to work on, pulling up a comp for one of these new listings, and none of the photos show up for any of the other homes. So you kind of have to, let me go to realtor.com, see if they have photos, try to find it.
Database has the
I don't remember that one. But I guess the photos are supposed to come back on maybe the 10th.
What a mess.
So it's been such a pain. And then it blows my mind that all the active ones, when you go to look at them, they don't have any photos, but that agent can actually do it. So I want to call them and it's like, hey,
by the way,
put the photos up,
They're taking the photos now. We want
to see what's going on.
Well, we talked in the past about on the show about like just how important it is to have that digital presence and like make sure that, like you were saying, the house has got to be decluttered, but it also has to be photographed correctly. You have to have the right lighting, the right this to highlight the things that you want to highlight because that's what people are looking at. Yeah. Before I decide to go drive out to Sebastopol, I want to go look at the house and go.
People aren't looking seeing in the newspaper.
Yeah.
Like a house
4-bedroom,
for sale.
3-bath. Oh, let's go buy. Right.
Yeah.
It's got to be done with that. That's a huge challenge on having it on there. Yeah.
Yeah.
When the Vanguard does
is
good
really
job with their toolkit thing. Yeah. Where they
we have a whole marketing department. So they do a phenomenal job when it comes to that. I mean, they're very particular, but they wouldn't let us just take cell phone pictures and put it up.
The one where with your hands in the mirror.
And the toilet seats up.
Toilet seats up and those are
dirty dishes in the sink.
It's pretty crazy.
Blows my mind.
Some of those we talked about, some of those like Instagram accounts, like bad real estate photos are phenomenal. It's so much fun. Just sometimes like, what are you doing? Why are you putting that on that's fine. Yeah. We went down the rabbit hole. There was a account that posted like a Instagram, the Zillow Gone Wild or one of those ones that was like something that the listing agent should not put up in the listing. And we went down a rabbit hole doing like a property profile to be like, who is the owner? Who owns this house?
Yes.
We like went at it and found the guy on Facebook and we're like, oh, that makes sense. It was so funny.
Even when I see things locally, I'll take a screenshot and send it to a couple of my friends. I'm like, can you believe this is in here?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? Yeah. Are these owners not seeing how their properties are being presented?
It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
I love that stuff. So wrapping up here. So anything else you want to tell us about you or what's going on in the market or any other advice you have for home buyers? Mostly a lot more buyers this year.
It seems like it. I mean, I just closed on a couple things, but, and those were also very competitive. So it's so interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have for a home buyer? Someone who's going, should I buy right now? Should I wait?
I think right now, even though there might be a little bit of competition, it's going to be less than once rates drop. Once the rates drop, people are going to kind of flood the market again.
So now's the time.
Yeah, now's the time. I mean, we're still dealing with low inventory. So
yeah, I wish there was a solution for that.
well, I know.
It's going to take a long time
It will.
to build back the inventory. We're just down, overall housing units. Just after the 2008 crash, they just didn't build enough houses between 2008 and 2015.
All those banks stopped lending
Exactly.
on.
Just
My
everything
husband's
froze.
a contractor, and he was working for a developer,
Okay.
Petaluma, and they were a long time company, and the banks just stopped lending. I mean, so those subdivisions and things just got put on hold for so long.
And just froze.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all those things, and all the credit dried up, and then we're just years behind in inventory. It's going to take a long time to build it back, and fortunately, home builders are at it. They're going out there and building a ton.
Yeah.
Not a ton in this area, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know. I kind of did myself and another agent. We just kind of been cruising around, just really checking out some of those new home developments, because there's more than you realize, kind of just in these little neighborhoods.
Yeah, a lot of infill stuff. There's, and Roanoke Park. I'm trying to get the developer of the Somo Village over by Sonoma State to come on.
Yeah.
And I think there's a few other developments that have additional phases that are going to be breaking ground.
Yeah, and they're changing them up too. I mean, one of them that we looked at, they got the ADU options.
Yeah.
So I think it's just kind of recognizing what people are looking for.
Yeah.
They want mom and dad or
Multi-generational
whoever,
housing,
or be able to rent out something.
Yeah, boomerang kid or whatever it is to come back after college and come back home but not live in the house.
Yeah,
kind of ideal.
Absolutely.
Very very interesting trends that we're going to see in terms of like how we live differently in the future and how how our housing will look different as we go forward.
Yeah.
But I am encouraged to see that there's more ADUs being built.
Yeah.
That kind of takes some need.
Especially because of COVID, so many people did migrate from the cities, to Sonoma County, Mendocino County. Just they wanted that space. They
100%.
wanted to be outside. They wanted to be with family. So we've got to start being able to accommodate all that.
Love that.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I really appreciate being on the show, and
Thank you.
great to
Thanks
spend
for
some
having
time
me.
with you. Yeah, absolutely. And you did awesome.
Thank you.
And we'll make sure that people can find you on Instagram in the show notes. So if people want to check out what you're up to and see your listings and what you're doing as you're posting more and more on social and doing that thing, they can find you there. And then we'll also put a link to your website so people can contact you and reach out if they have questions about anything to do with Sonoma County real estate. Because it's only Sonoma County? You don't,
Pretty much. Yeah.
For the right property, you'll go elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Right on. Really great to spend some time with you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Okay. Bye.
Stay up to date with Bay Area real estate. Hit subscribe now if you haven't already. Did you enjoy this episode? We love reviews in the Apple Podcasts app. We'll read yours on the show. This is By the Bay.
Lending Ear Media.